It's speaking of long droughts, it's been since 2001 since the Mariners as an organization have won a division title, and they know it's time. They've got the pitching staff to get there. They have to solve this offense.
From the EQC studio, welcome to the Top Step with Ryan Rowland-Smith.
How we going, mates? Welcome back to the Top Step. We're inside the EQC studio. My name is Ryan Rowland-Smith. We have got a great episode for you this week. I've got Adam Jude from the Seattle Times joining me right after the break. We're going to break down what he has seen since the trade deadline, what some of the impact has been from Randy Arozarena, Rojas, who's literally my favorite player lately, and what kind of impact it's going to have on Julio Rodriguez. I can't wait for Adam to join me coming up. I'm even going to pose him a question I'm going to pose to you in just a moment. Matter of fact, I posed it over on social media. Speaking of, go to @TheTopStepTV on Twitter and Instagram, and go to YouTube. Go subscribe to The Top Step at The Top Step TV at YouTube, or you can listen anywhere you get your podcasts. Hey, big announcement. We're back at the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook, August 30th, Friday afternoon. Come join us. Come hang out. We've had Casey Sadler there, Dave Ardsma. We had Charlie Furbush join us. I'm going to have a special guest with me, joining me at the casino. So come check it out. All right, let's get into this week's edition of the Top Trends. Okay, this is brought to you by ilovebaseball.org. Go to ilovebaseball.org and see the amazing things they're doing for young Dominican ball players. All right, I posed this question on social media. It said, if the playoffs started tomorrow, who you got starting game one? I put up Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Castillo, Bryce Miller. Now, I didn't put Brian Wu because you can only use 4 choices. Twitter or X only allows for 4 choices. I get it. I saw a couple comments talking about Brian Wu. Overwhelmingly, Logan Gilbert got 63% of the vote. And trust me, I get it. I love Logan Gilbert. I'm going to ask Adam Jude this question as well. See what he has to say. Logan Gilbert, he's like my favorite pitcher in the road. Matter of fact, he's my favorite player on this team. What am I saying? He's been on this show. You can go back and listen to the interview. And then George Kirby, 22%. Luis Castillo, 13%. I find that interesting, especially after what we saw a couple years ago when the Mariners were back in the playoffs and how dominant he was against that tough Blue Jays lineup. But I'm looking at this. Logan Gilbert stands out. But you know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with George Kirby, and here is why. Look, I'm looking at the last batch of starts. He's had absolute dominance. The worst start he's had is against the Detroit Tigers, right? He still went 5 1/3, 3 runs. But you look at since the middle of June, the last 10 starts, 6 innings, 7 innings, 6 innings, 6 1/3, 6 innings. List goes on. He doesn't go any shorter than 4 or 5 innings at all, period. The other thing I like about George Kirby is that when you have a situation in a game where you need all of a sudden strike throwing, you slip behind 2-1, 2-0, Scott Service doesn't have to say, okay, hey, let's pitch around. Don't throw anything in the middle of the plate. George Kirby is going to be on the black. He's going to challenge, but he's not going to challenge in the middle of the plate. There's just so many things to like about George Kirby in a playoff situation scenario. And by the way, he did go shutout against the Astros, if you remember, in that playoff game at T-Mobile Park. Remember that one? The one that went extra innings? So I'm going George Kirby for so many different reasons. He's kind of snuck up on us too in June, July, and in the month of August as well. The reason why I'm going away from Logan is just because of that Red Sox game. I hate to say it. Love Logan Gilbert. Like I said, love the dude. But he even said it too. They missed that. The umpire missed that pitch, and all of a sudden he couldn't quite get it back on track. So I steer away from that. But look, you can't go wrong with any of these pitches. And I'll give Brian Wu a special mention as well. I will ask Adam Jude that right after the break. Let me know what he thinks. Let me know what you think too. Go on social media. Who would you have if it all started tomorrow? Oh, you know what? October rolled around and we had a 1-game playoff. Who's your guy? Who's starting game 1 for you? Let me know over at the Top Step TV, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, we've got a great show for you. Adam Jude's joining me. We're going to break down a whole bunch of Mariner stuff right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on the Top Step.
Here's what's happening at Emerald Queen Casino this week. Lucky 4 Lottery, our most popular promotion, is bringing the luck Wednesdays in August. Match 3 numbers to win free play. Match 4 numbers to win $5,000 cash. Fridays and Saturdays, join the party with great music at Slahal's Rooftop Remix, 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Play Spin to Win every day at the promotion kiosks, where every spin wins a prize. You gotta be here for it. Emerald Queen Casino, the entertainment capital of the Northwest.
All right, welcome back to the Top Step and inside the EQC studio. Joining me right now on the San Juan Seltzer interview, it is Seattle Times Adam Jude. Adam, how are we doing?
Ryan, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Hey, listen, it was just days ago we were talking about how crazy this team has been in regards to, you know, like I think it was after like the Tigers series. You're looking at this going, man, okay, now all of a sudden this team can't score runs. And then they go out against the Mets, like that weekend series. They finish up with Sunday Night Baseball. And they just have this series where like they just dominate, obviously, on starting pitching. We've seen that all year. But then all of a sudden you got offense again. This team, man, it's so hard to really sort of, you know, pigeonhole into what they're going to be, because I feel like series to series it changes every single week.
You're 100% spot on. Like, you know, I'm just covering this team, and I can see the emotional swings from this fan base, right? It's just one day they look like the best team in baseball. Like, oh my God, with this series or with this pitching staff, we can go win the World Series. And there's reason, and that's justifiable. But then the next series against the Tigers at home, you know, they just lay a complete egg, and you're going, wait a minute, like, who are these guys? So you're right, week to week, day to day, game to game, you just don't know what you're going to get with this team. But it is really interesting here as we hit the middle of August, as the weather starts to turn. They're embarking on a big road trip here, a huge, really important road trip, we know. But Julio's back. Maybe they found something, right? The top of that lineup with Victor Robles, Randy Arozarena. Maybe they can find some of that offensive consistency. They've been searching for that for years now. We know this. Yeah. With that starting staff, maybe they found some momentum here. You know, you see it in basketball, you see it in football all the time. They're momentum sports. Maybe baseball is becoming that too, specifically for the Mariners. Once you kind of get rolling a little bit, get that energy at the top of the lineup, maybe we'll start to see some consistent production.
Hey, you're speaking of that, and speaking of, you know, Robles and Arozarena, you're in the clubhouse way more than me, and you're asking these guys questions. Do you feel like any of that kind of energy has been something that's rubbed off on Julio in regards to having guys around him that are very similar to him, or is it just something like, you know, I haven't really noticed it? Yeah, especially with the Arozarena coming in, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, right before the trade deadline. Of those guys, like, do you see any kind of like, spark in Julio's energy? I know he's been on the IL, but do you think that helps?
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting here these next couple of weeks as Julio, the Mariners hope, obviously hits his stride and kind of finds his groove again, coming off, you know, almost 3 weeks missing now too. So, you know, he wasn't on the last road trip in Chicago and Boston when they made the trade for Arozarena and brought Justin Turner in. It's going to be really interesting to see how he meshes not only in the clubhouse but in the lineup too. And all indications are it's going to be really smooth. Arozarena and Julio have trained together in the off seasons down in Florida. They actually share a personal hitting coach, so they've been together together a lot. And Arozarena, the first time we talked to him when he came in, was talking about Julio right away and how excited he was to play with Julio. They had already talked on the phone for a while, and Julio expressed, you know, his excitement, of course. And I think when you bring that same energy, and as you said, you add Victor Robles and what he's doing at the top of the lineup, just talking about monkeys and the energy and the crazy catches, all the stuff he's doing too. It's not just Julio now, right? It's not just Julio with the antics and the awesome energy. It's all three of those guys, and you add on what Cal Raleigh is doing, Justin Turner, his approach, Mitch Haniger continuing to come through the clutch. It's not just one guy. It's not just Julio that we're having to rely on.
Were you surprised the Mariners went out and got 3 players, and 3 significant players in Justin Turner, Arozarena, and Jimmy Garcia? Because, and again, to me, I was thinking to myself, all right, you could see the same. Luis Castillo a couple of years ago, but I felt like with Luis Castillo, they felt like they had a really good chance to extend him. So they're looking at this going, okay, good chance he's going to be here longer than what we think. Last year, they were kind of in it, but they kind of made these, you know, lateral moves in regards to Paul Sewald for Rojas. But were you surprised, man? I'm not going to lie. I was a little surprised that they went as hard as they did.
Yeah, no, they've been signaling, you know, all season that they're all in here. And then once they built that lead over Houston and over the Rangers and the AL West, I think they could see. They could obviously see. It's obvious to everybody. This is the year. It's speaking of long droughts. It's been since 2001 since the Mariners as an organization have won a division title, and they know it's time. They've got the pitching staff to get there. They have to solve this offense, and I think they went out and got the best piece of anyone in baseball. They got Randy Arozarena, and again, he's a guy. When you look down the stretch and you look at the acquisitions, the deals that they made, Randy Arozarena, Justin Turner, Jimmy Garcia, all three of those guys have significant postseason experience. They've all been in those big moments, and Randy Arozarena has been one of the best performers, in the history of baseball in the postseason. You think about 2020 and the way he flashed and burst onto the scene was incredible. I think he's got the third highest OPS in postseason history with players over 100 at bats. I mean, that's what he's made for, and he's talked about that. You look at his, he's got the shiny neon cleats every day. He's got the jewelry. He's got, which is really interesting because as we've gotten to know him just a little bit, it's only been a couple of weeks, but he's really quiet. He really keeps himself in the locker room. That's not really his personality. The flash is kind of on the outside. The flash is bat flips. The flash is in his play and the adventurous routes he takes out there in left field that keep you on the edge of your seat. But, that's his baseball, kind of personality. Behind the scenes, he's a really mellow guy. He's kind of really respected as a guy who puts the work in. And you talked to Luke Rayling, who was teammates with him in Tampa. But to me, the Mariners made the biggest move at the trade deadline of any team. The biggest move anyone could make. Again, so much talk about the Blue Jays and what are they going to do with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They were never going to trade him. It was not going to happen. And obviously the Mariners, with their prospects, could have gone out and blown the Blue Jays away with an offer. But the Blue Jays, I don't think anything was going to move them. So, plan A, I think all along was Arozarena. And I think he's exactly what this team needed. You plug him into the number 2 hole there. You get Cal and you get Julio hit behind him with Robles in front of him. The complexion of this lineup has changed dramatically.
Big time.
J.P. Crawford, if he can come back from that broken pinky in the next few weeks too, adds some stability there too. Got great on-base skills, and all of a sudden your lineup looks legitimate. It looks like a lineup in the postseason that can actually do some damage and make a run here. So kudos to the Mariners front office. This is what they knew they had to do. It's for them to be able to go out and find those trade partners and execute these trades. I thought was, was an A. It was an absolute A for what they were able to do.
I'm giving it an A too, and I said this even around the time, and I'm not, because they've all been really good. They've all made an impact. They, right away. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot here though. You've got, let's play hypotheticals. Let's say the rules where you can only make one trade. Now I'm going to throw Jimmy Garcia in this mix, Randy Arozarena, Justin Turner. I'm going to put Victor Robles in there. Now let's put Victor Robles to the production because he's been really good. I don't think we talk about how important he has been enough. Because I try and talk about him all the time. Now you've got, let's do a hypothetical. Let's put Robles at the trade deadline. And the production let's say he's in a Washington Nationals uniform, but he's heating up because the numbers he put as soon as he came out. When did he come over in May? Was it May or June?
Early June, I believe.
Early June, and he just went off. So let's say he went off, but in a Nationals uniform. Who are you taking? Are you taking Justin Turner, Arozarena, Robles, or Jimmy Garcia? You can only take one.
Yeah.
Who are you taking?
Tough question. I really think Victor Robles' energy as much as anything, and the stability, the timing of his resurgence here with Julio out for the past few weeks has been vital for this team to keep them afloat and headed the stretch here. Right in contention, tied with Houston. But I'm going to go with Arozarena at the end of the day. Again, all the things we just talked about. His presence in the postseason, he's as dangerous as anyone. He's as confident as anyone.
Right.
We've seen Julio the past few years, the way he shuffles and shimmies in the box. And I love just Julio's presence when he gets in there. Randy is that same type of hitter, same type of athlete. When he steps in the box, like he's not intimidated by anyone or anything. You can see it right away. Like I said, he's got so much flash, but when it comes to the postseason, there's so much substance to back up that flash too. And I think that's really going to benefit everyone hitting in front of him and behind him. Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez specifically, once they get in, if they're able to get in the postseason, even down the stretch, just because he shows up when the lights are brightest. Julio does too, but Arozarena is as good as anyone in baseball in those moments, and I think that's exactly what this team needed.
All right, I'm gonna give you one more question here. I'm gonna put you on the spot again. It's a 1-game playoff for the Mariners to get into the postseason. Okay, you've got 5 starters who are just, and by the way, the rotation. I wish we had more time to talk about how amazing they've been and just consistent. That's the word I'm thinking of. And I can knock on wood here, but just injury free. Look at the Dodgers having to deal with all that stuff, but you just take that for granted. Now, the 5 starters, you got a 1-game playoff here, and by the way, you can chime in if you jump on social at the Top Step. Top Step TV. You can jump on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Okay, 1-game playoff. Who's it going to be? You got Castillo, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, George Kirby, Brian Wu. Who you got?
You can't go wrong with any of them, which is the luxury that the Mariners have here right now. And it's
but if they pitch bad, you're going to cop it from fans. They're going to be like, why didn't so-and-so pitch instead of him?
100%. It's really hard to not pick Luis Castillo. You think about what he did 2 years ago when the Mariners finally got back in, the way he shoved against the Blue Jays in that first start. It was as impressive as probably any postseason start over the last decade in Major League Baseball. George Kirby with his stuff, just his bravado, just his presence, his command is probably the best command in the history of baseball. Yeah. Think about that. Like, we're talking Greg Maddux and George Kirby. It's a very short list of guys who can put the ball precisely where they want to. All that said, I'm going Logan Gilbert with what he's been able to do this year. He's taken that step that George Kirby took last year. To me, it's going to be really fascinating here over the next month and a half. All these guys, yes, but I think Logan Gilbert is going to vault himself in the thick of that AL Cy Young discussion. I think he's got the stuff. I think he's got the makeup. I think he's got the confidence now to go out and do that. He had that hiccup a couple weeks ago at Fenway Park. It's Fenway Park, with one swing and any pitcher could look silly in that park. And it was one missed pitch by the umpire in that game, if you really want to go dissect it, that really kind of submarined Logan's start that day. I just think Logan's a totally different guy. I think he's as good as anyone in baseball this year, and I think we're going to see it here over the next 6-7 weeks. He's led Major League Baseball in innings pitched virtually the entire season. He's led Major League Baseball in whip virtually the entire season. Soft contact. He gets the punch outs when he needs them. He's got the nasty splitter. He adds in a curveball. He's got it all. To me, he's the guy who's vaulted himself into that discussion. And if you have to pick one guy to get you into the playoffs, to me, it's Logan Gilbert this year.
Oh, okay. That one game you mentioned in Boston is why I'm steering clear of Logan Gilbert. I know he sounds. By the way, and again, Logan, he's been on this show. He's my favorite guy on the team. Absolutely love watching him pitch. He's just been so dominant. Don't get me wrong. But he even said it too after the game. If you remember, he said, "Hey, look, it's on me. I should have been," even though they missed that one pitch, which they did, and I was super frustrated about it. But he's like, "Hey, it's on me. I'm going to make better pitches." I'm going George Kirby. He just like snuck up on us the last couple months. He's been so dominant, and he just has that ice in his veins, man. Anything you need command. You got all of a sudden a 3-1 count with a runner on second, and you're like, oh, should we pitch around this guy? And George is like, no, I'm just going to go on the black. You know what I'm saying? Like that big moment where you're going to get that one guy, get that extra out, and to stop that big inning that can completely sink you in a playoff game. I'm going George Kirby. And then I was even thinking maybe like a Brian Wu on a short leash or something, but no, I'm going straight. I'm going straight George Kirby. But you can't go wrong, man, though, with any of them, really.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating debate, and if you're the Mariners, your hope is a debate you can continue to have deep into September and deep into October, too. Who's your game one starter in maybe a potential championship series? Who's your game one starter in the World Series? It's stuff you can dream on because they have been so good, so dominant. You just look across the board. They're number one in virtually everything across Major League Baseball, which is unprecedented. And to your point, the consistency with which they've done it. And now we're seeing, I'm writing about Brian Wu this week. It really feels like he's turned a corner as well.
Yes.
He's kind of realized, hey, I want to be part of this thing down the stretch. I know I'm capable. He finally has some confidence now. He's gone out and done it for a year plus now. And you know what? If your hamstring is bothering you a little bit, guess what? You can pitch through that a little bit. Yeah, if it's something legitimate, I get it. But he's realizing now, too, you know what? I can push through this. I want to pitch for this team. I want to be part of this. And I'm capable of being right in the thick of it and as good as anyone because he really is.
You know, it's funny, the Brian Wu thing, how dominant he's been. Love watching him pitch. But just, and again, not that I'm like pointing fingers. I get it, but I'm just like, oh man, how do we get you over this hump where you're going 90+ pitches every time out? Because I want to see what you're capable of doing when you're hitting 100 triple digits on the pitch count, and see are we going 7-8 innings every time out because he's so efficient. But no, I'm with you, man. Like just the niggly little things, the hamstring, the elbow, is in between starts. He wasn't throwing bullpens, everything else. But it's good. I'm with you. I feel like he's finally sort of turned that corner, and I don't know. Maybe he had a conversation with someone and they say, "Hey, look, man, like." Let's do this. Like, it's about time. Let's make it happen. Let's just pitch through some of this stuff.
It's a fascinating, conversation going forward. He, obviously him and Bryce Miller came up together. They're good buddies. Brian's looking at Bryce Miller and what he's been able to do, the durability this year to take that next step. And I think Brian feels like he's just as good and just as capable. And I'm curious to see if we see that down the stretch here.
I love playing my games and watching my points multiply. I love a good deal with all the perks. Because while I'm shooting for a crown jewel, I collect lots of great gifts along the way. And I'm here for it. Emerald Queen Casino, the entertainment capital of the Northwest.
All right, Adam, listen, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is probably the most important part of this whole chat. We're going to do the How to Speak Australian segment. You want to stick around? How are you with Australian slang? You're pretty good. Do you have any ties to Australia whatsoever?
None whatsoever. The closest is Jim. I watched Dumb and Dumber as a kid probably 1,000 times. So the worst and maybe most stereotypical accent is Jim Carrey and his attempts in Dumb and Dumber to try to make a terrible impression. So
all right, okay. So
because if you're gonna make me do this is brutal.
No, you don't have to do an accent. But I'm going to give you a word. You have to guess it right. I'm going to give you a sentence as well. Now, if you don't guess it right, I'm not going to give you the answer till later because I want people on social media to have a crack at it too. So this is how it works. This is the How to Speak Australian segment brought to you by the Kangaroo and Kiwi Pub. It's in Ballard. Great Aussie pub. We are going to do some Aussie trivia there in September. You're more than welcome to come and hang out with me and all my Aussie mates. But this is how it works. I'm going to give you a word, give you a sentence. Now, if you want to play along, get at the Top Step TV on Twitter and Instagram. Put it hashtag TTS mate, and you can win yourself some really cool prizes. Try and guess the word if Adam is unable to do it. The word this week, Adam, is hoon. It's spelled H-O-O-N. What do you got? What's a hoon?
Gosh, what's a
But judging by that reaction, you got no idea. I love it.
No idea. Hoon. Oh my gosh. It feels like something you'd order at the pub. Give me a hoon. I'll take 2 hoons.
No. Well, maybe you've had a couple of these, but listen, before you go and act like this, but I'll give you a sentence. Hey, man, this might give it away. No, I'll give it. You might give it away here, but hey, slow down, you hoon.
Oh,
what do you got?
It's a little bit of a slang of like come on, pal, or kind of like jerk or something like that.
Yes, it's not like you don't want to be a hoon, but I'm not going to give you the answer. I'll tell you when we get off the show here. But go and have a crack at it. Adam could not nail it. Get it at the Top Step TV. Put in hashtag TTS mate. Tell me what a hoon is. H-O-O-N. That's brought to you by the Kangaroo and Kiwi. You're dying to know, aren't you? You're dying to know what that is. I might not even tell you. I might not even tell you what it is.
Great.
Just to mess with you. No, I'm kidding. I will let you know. But Adam, this has been great, man. Hopefully you can come back on, especially once we get into September and we're diving into some good playoff talk down in this race as we're heading towards October. But Adam, I really, really appreciate you joining us for the CM1 Seltzer interview.
This has been fun. Thanks, Ryan.